that I know. You're hurt and you can't let go. It's not your fault and you don't deserve all the bad and the hurt. I know you tried so hard. I know you've done your part. It's not fair. You did your time. How much longer will you suffer in this life? But don't give up. Just hold on tight. It'll be alright. All your life you've tried to be a good man inside. Did everything that you thought you should. Didn't seem to do you any good.
Hey friends, it's Robin. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing my monthly reset from March into April. Look, I messed up my schedule and I had it on my to-do list to film tomorrow, but this video is supposed to go up tomorrow morning. And so at the last second, we had to shift some stuff around and I'm filming right now. So you get me on the couch with nothing but mascara on. The lighting absolutely sucks today. It is going to be storming here in like the next hour or two, so it's dark. The animals are running around being wild because it's like 2:30 in the afternoon. We're gonna have to deal with all of the chaos. So if you haven't seen one of these before, I started doing it last month. I got the idea from Olivia and Stef because they both do this over on their channels and I really like it. They're cozy, they're comfy, and I like getting just like a little wrap up for each month without just like going into detail on every single book, especially since I do recent reads videos and vlogs and all of those things. You guys know what I'm reading. Just kind of give you a little recap. We talk about whether or not I read the TBR that I posted at the beginning of the month, and then what my favorites were. So starting off with how many books I've read this month. So far, I have read 20 books. As of the day that I'm filming this is March 30th. This is going up tomorrow on the 31st. I am hoping to at least finish one of the 2 books that I'm currently reading. So I have finished 20 books. I'm going to pop up my little graphics that I always share over on Instagram for like a little glimpse at all of the books. So if you ever want like more up-to-date information, Instagram is where I probably update the most in real time. I usually will update pretty much right after I finish reading a book, and sometimes like a little 1 to 2 sentence review. But that's kind of where I was at reading wise. I am currently in the middle of 2 books, and I did bring them down, I think. Yes. So first up, I'm in the middle of Enemy Within, and in the middle of, I'm like right there, so maybe a quarter of the way through. This is the final book in the Executive Office series. That's right? The Executive Office. And I'm listening to this on audio. I got this through my library via Hoopla, and this is my current audiobook. Am I gonna finish it? Probably not. I'm probably gonna end up finishing this over the weekend, which means it'll go into April, but that's okay. I don't really care that much. I am reading it. It's gonna get done, just might not be before the end of the month. The other book that I am currently reading is A Kingdom of Venom and Vows by Holly Renee, and I actually would be much further into this, but I had to reread like the last 4 or 5 chapters of Blood and Betrayal because I could not remember what happened at the end. And so I ended up spending the first hour of my reading last night rereading the end of that book. So I have a little ways to go in here. I do kind of want to finish this one before the end of the month. So that's where I'm at reading wise with what I finished. This month I only DNF'd 1 book, and it was Freehand by Ian Lindsay. And Mariah, if you are watching this, I am so sorry. I know Mariah loves this author, and I'm pretty sure she loves this book. And there's nothing wrong with this book, in all honesty. Like, there is nothing wrong with it. I just didn't feel anything about this book. And it was at the end of a reading vlog. I was reading this for the Trans Rights Readathon, and I had like one day left, and I was just like, I don't want to finish this. And as much as I love structured reading, I also have to give myself the room to be like, I'm not enjoying myself right now. Because if I force myself to do it, my brain will just shut down and it won't want to do anything. Yeah, there was nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing. I thought it was perfectly fine. But every single time I would think about reading, I was like, what if I just read something else? So instead, I just DNF'd it. There's no reason for me to push through this book and give it a lower rating than it deserves simply because I wasn't in the mood for this. You know what I mean? So put it down. I might come back to it. This is an author that I still want to read and give like a bigger try. So let's get into what I put on my TBR. If you haven't seen my TBR, I'll link it up in the cards and down below. If you're curious what I said I was going to read in the month of March, I put 15 books on my TBR. I actually read the majority of that TBR. For a dark colored cover, I said I was either going to read Sabbatical or Feed Them Silence. I did end up reading Feed Them Silence and not Sabbatical, and here is why, okay? I actually attempted to read Sabbatical, I think 3 times. Nowhere will let me send Sabbatical to my Kindle, and it makes me read it on my phone, and I hate reading on my phone unless I'm at like the doctor's office or like waiting somewhere that I'm just going to read for a couple of pages. I cannot read a whole book on my phone, and I cannot get Sabbatical anywhere that will let me send it to my Kindle, and it's driving me crazy. So I think I'm going to end up having to buy it, which is fine, but it was just not something that I was going to buy this month. I put Ruby Spencer's blah 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 on here. I never even attempted to pick this up. And this is one that was sent to me, and it wasn't one that was like already on my TBR, and I have a hard time getting these into my TBR because my TBRs are pretty structured already. And so this one just it never found its place, and so I never got to it. Let's see what else was on there that I didn't get to. Ooh. Beautiful Nightmares by KJ Sutton. I put it on this TBR because originally the next book was going to come out either at the end of March or beginning of April. It got moved back to summer. I don't remember when, August, July, somewhere around there. So I'm pushing this one back as well. So this was like a conscious choice to not pick up. And then the only other things were Egotistical Puck Boy by Ian Finley and Saxon James. I realized about midway through the month that this wasn't going to happen because of like the Trans Rights Readathon and things like that. I ended up shuffling things around. So I pushed this one back to April, as well as A Spencer's Guide to Danger and Dukes. This was another one that kind of became a casualty of the fact that I shifted around my TBR for the Trans Rights Readathon. So I ran out of time. It didn't happen. Odds are I'm going to get this on audio and then just pick this up one week in April where I need an audiobook. That's kind of the game plan. The other arcs that I didn't get to in March were The Foxglove King by, oh, I'm totally blanking on the author name. You're seeing it right here. But I didn't get to this one. And I think part of this one is a me problem now because I did read that first chapter for that Reader's Guide to Fantasy Romance series, and I didn't particularly love that first chapter. And so now I'm like overly intimidated by this one, but I did get the audiobook, so I will listen to it eventually. And actually the same thing with A London Seance Society. I did get this on audio now, so I will be listening to it, but it didn't end up happening. But if you watch tomorrow's video, you know that this got pushed back into April anyways. So that will be read soon. So hopefully that made sense, that little kind of wrap up of what I did and didn't read. I'm sure editing me is going to hate how I structure that because it was kind of haphazard, but it is what it is. So getting into what my favorites are this month, this was actually probably my worst reading month of the year, rating wise. Of all of the books that I read this month, so all 20 books, I only had five stars, which is probably a lot for some readers, but I have started to get a little bit more graceful with my 5 stars. And so I actually read some books that I really didn't like this month, which was really shocking because like a lot of them were anticipated releases for me and they just didn't end up working. And so I only had 5 total 5 stars, so I'm only gonna talk about 4 because one is kind of like a 2-part. So I only have 4 books to talk about, which is a little sad. First, we have 8 by Rilsey Adams. This is a really short erotica novella. It has a happy for now, but it doesn't have like a full-on happily ever after. It's more just this little one-night thing between these two characters, and it's hinted as there might be more. This was exactly what I want out of a novella like this. So when I pick up a novella, I'm usually looking for something that is just that I can kind of pick up in between a couple of things. I have like a Sunday night where it's like, okay, I don't want to start in like on next week's TBR. I kind of need a reset. I just want something fun that I can sit down and read in full right now. And this was everything I want out of that type of book. It was really steamy. It had amazing characters. The chemistry between them was fantastic. Like everything about this, the way that it was paced, the way that it was built, Rilsey Adams really took this and was like, what actually needs to happen in this book? And took all of the unnecessary stuff out. You don't need a breakup in a 50-page book. You don't need a big dramatic reveal in a 50-page book. And it was really just these two being together, realizing they have amazing chemistry, spending a night together, and maybe seeing where it goes in the future. And it was just, I thought it was perfectly done. I think sometimes with these really short books, some authors try to cram an entire story arc into it, and it's just not enough time for any of that stuff. It seemed like she created these characters and the entire thought, and then just like gave you a little glimpse of it. And so everything felt like fully developed, and you were just getting a peek at it instead of trying to create the entire story in that time frame, if that makes sense. So I really liked this. Like I said, it was a novella that I just thought was perfectly done. Then we have Inextricably Tied by Aveda Weiss. And I have learned that I really, really love Aveda Weiss's novellas, but their full-length novels kill it. Oh my God, these might be some of my favorite monster romances ever, because I've now given both Yours Insatiably and this 5 stars. And there is just something so unique and fantastic about the way that they craft their monster romances. In this world, the humans and monsters have all coexisted for extended periods of time. Their monsters have history. And so you don't waste a lot of words and time discussing about why monsters are here. And this one is a romantic suspense. And our two main characters, one is a banshee who cannot touch skin to skin, or she will be able to like create a tether to you and she will now feel all of your emotions. When she touches an object with her bare hands, she can get glimpses of the past from that object. All of the banshees have certain abilities and you do get to learn those, which I thought was really cool. So every banshee has like their own unique abilities. And then her bodyguard is a gargoyle, and he has his own difficult past, and because of that he is overly protected of our heroine. And at the beginning of the book they end up meeting the night terror of a serial killer, and the three of them end up going from enemies to reluctant allies to lovers. And it is a very intense and wild ride. This took me through so many emotions. The range of emotions that I felt throughout this book was overwhelming sometimes. And I thought that this had some very interesting things to say about religion and organized religion in a fantastical way. So the banshees feel very convent-like, where they go to this tower and they are there and they are expected to worship the goddess and live a certain way and act a certain way and punished a certain way. It had a lot of things to say about grief and how we deal with grief. It was just so well done. This is very intense at times. This has content warnings for organized religion, for death, for loss of a loved one, for sexual assault, for blood, gore, murder, more things than that. But it is a romantic suspense, so do go into it knowing that this does touch on a lot of really heavy things, and the depictions at the end are quite graphic and bloody, so know that, but it was absolutely fantastic. I went on a journey with this book. Then, of course, the Criminal Intentions finale, parts 1 and 2. I'm counting this as one because it is a part 1 and part 2. It's really all following the same story. It was just broken into 2 books, and I loved it. Obviously, no one's surprised. I thought that this was a fantastic end to the series. I really loved how like the big villain was done in here. I really liked how the conflict between our two main characters was executed and resolved. I thought all of that was really well done. I love the series so much. I feel like every time I talk about this book, I say the same things, and I feel bad for the people who watch my channel all the time because I'm constantly telling you just how much I love Malcolm and Sanjay. But I love Malcolm and Sanjay. Like, I just love them so much. This it does have a really big content warning in here, not only for all of the standard romantic suspense stuff, but there is a riot that happens in here as well. There are a lot of like anti-police protests happening throughout these final books, and it does result in rioting. And there is some very intense depictions of the police and military using excessive force. Do know that going in that there is a lot of discussion around police brutality and things like that in these final books. So just a little content warning if you are considering picking this series up. And then the last book I want to talk about is one that I've talked about, I think, in the last like 3 or 4 videos. So I apologize. This will be it for a minute, I think. And that is Something Wild and Wonderful by Anita Kelly. I love Anita Kelly so much. I love their romances. This was a hiking romance. And as much as I hate outdoorsy things and hiking and travel stories, I loved this book with every fiber of my being. I talked about this in my recent reads video as well as my spring Brex video, but I felt like this book has such a good balance of everything. I thought the character development was very well done. Wouldn't say that this necessarily has a third act breakup, but the conflict that does arise I thought was really well done. I thought the resolution was really well done. I loved their personal journeys. I really liked the discussions and themes that this brought up around homophobia, around the expectations of family, of what a family is and who your family can be. I know a lot of people picked this up for the Trans Rights Readathon, which makes me so happy because Anita Kelly needs all of the readers because their books are so fantastic. So that is it for my monthly reset. I'm really excited to get into April. I have a lot of really fun reading plans. You're going to hear about a couple of them coming up in my April TBR tomorrow. And I also hinted at some of them in my spring TBR, where I shared a couple of the vlogs and things like that are going to be coming up this spring. I have 2 vlogs planned for the month of April. One is a secret TBR that I'm not going to tell you about, but the other one is the follow-up to my fantasy romance series. So I'm going to be doing a part 2 where I try to fix my fantasy romance vlog, and I pick 5 books that I didn't read for that vlog, and I see if any of those are 5 stars because I didn't have a 5-star in that first vlog. So that is coming this month, as well as a whole bunch of releases, which I will be sharing in a couple of days as well. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know how your reading went this month, and I will see you in tomorrow's video. Bye.